All right, so I have been invited by um, a guy who identifies himself as um, I think it was a neo-anarchical socialist, or an anarcho-socialist, I think was the term he used. So this is on invited by him to go fight him in Philadelphia. He invited several people as well. I think I'm going to accept his invitation. This is my formal acceptance of the invitation. So this was on Brett Weinstein's YouTube channel. He had an interview with Andy Ngo, who was a reporter right here who was attacked by Antifa at a protest in Portland. I'm not sure what the protest was about, um, but he was attacked. You can go see the video there. Regardless, that's not really the point of the video. This isn't really about uh, about fascism or anti-fascism or communism or anarcho-socialism. Um, this is simply about an invitation for combat. So it starts with Mr. D. Alfred Echeverria posting, Antifa thugs should be facing attempted murder charges. Now, for some reason, some of the comments aren't appearing. Perhaps they've been deleted, or it's just it might be an update issue from Google servers not showing me all the comments. But so it's Mr. Benjamin Weiss. He says. So he's alluding here. So the first comment that he made, how this got started, is he said something to the effect of, referencing this, responding to this comment. He says, no, it should be the police and military who are locked up. And he then goes on. So you can see here this comment is referencing him and his original comment. The police and military assaulted this guy. And he says, no, it's not what he said. Not what I said, but they are a gang because they are biggest in America. They'll get theirs. Antifa was practicing self-defense against a fascist, referring to Andy Ngo. And so then this gentleman, Mr. Ken Sin, gets involved. And this is the first time Mr. Weiss invites someone to fight him. And he says, you are more than welcome to come find me. I live in Mount Airy, Philadelphia. Again, I am not publishing this. This is on Google. This is on YouTube, which is a Google platform. It is which is treated by the FCC as a publisher. Excuse me, as a platform. They are not a publisher. Mr. Weiss has published this. He has gone out to put his information out there. I would not intend to to find this person. And again, nor do I advise anyone to harass this man, to target him, to attack him in any way. But this is information that he has willingly put out there, inviting Mr. Sin to come find him. Whatever that means. He goes on later to clarify, meaning to fight him. He then invites Mr. at 320 Cruiser to come get some in Philly, again, second time. So he's disclosing his information to multiple people. This isn't a private communication. By the way, he feels that he's angry at fascists, the criminal justice system, and the military. He later goes on to to clarify who he's angry at. There's a lot of anger in this young man, or however he identifies. So let's see. So he's invited at least 2 people to fight him in Philadelphia. This is really important here. He says that self-defense should never be conflated with violence. I understand what he's meaning, but I disagree. I think that self-defense is a justified use of violence. It must necessarily be violent. Violence isn't always a bad thing. I feel that maybe he was taught that violence is evil. Violence is not a bad thing. Sometimes you have to be violent. You have to attack problems with the violence of action. But this is really the important part and the crux of how this guy thinks. Antifa practices self-defense. Debatable, but okay. That reporter's ideology is a direct attack on us. And he got off light, very light. So, Mr. No, his ideology is a direct attack. And a direct attack is worthy of self-defense. I agree that if you're attacked, you have the right to defend yourself. Depending on the state that you're in, you might have, stand your ground laws or not, but you might have a responsibility to flee. But I disagree that Mr. No's ideology is a direct attack. I think that it's important to delineate between one's ideologies, one's words, and direct physical attacks. He then goes, so Mr. Sin was the first person he invited to fight him, and he asked him if he's a member of the military. You know what y'all got coming for you, right? I mean, we're going to try you at Geneva for war crimes. Mr. Sin never mentioned what country he was from or what wars he was a part of. He said he was a part of 4 wars, but Mr. Weiss is certain that he committed war crimes. So there's 2 people he's invited. He then he encourages somebody else to commit suicide, Mr. Hocticus Maximus. The Antifa members should get a medal, and you should taste test a 38, do the world a favor. That's a slang, 38 referring to a 38 caliber pistol. So he's alluding to committing suicide. You see here he's upset at Mr. No. He says that he defends forces that impoverish and kill us, the pigs, the criminal justice system, and the military. Here again, he uses the same form. He got off light, very light. He didn't use the ellipsis between light and very light that he did it the first time. But I feel like this is something that this man really takes to heart, that Mr. No deserved something less light, whatever that may be. He goes on to see, and he says, if you don't like it being attacked, stop supporting genocidal ideology or get used to getting your ass kicked. I don't care either way. So Mr. Weiss feels that his violence is justified. Sometimes violence is justified, but the important thing is that he doesn't care either way. At some point before, he also, oh, here it is. He says it's fun hitting fascists. It's good fun hitting fascists. So this isn't as much of something that's politically driven or ideologically driven, because he doesn't care about the outcome. He doesn't care about what you have to think. He doesn't care that you stop supporting genocidal ideology and you get your ass kicked because of it. Right? You would think that if he's willing to use violence, then if we change our ideology, and as he puts it, stop supporting genocidal ideology, then then that would be a desirable outcome. But he doesn't care. It's good fun. He then references some protests in Philadelphia. So it goes on. You can find all of these comments here. Oh, here he does. He references Mr. Last Verse. Come to Philly and try me or STFU. Here's something that's interesting. He also thinks that all judges, police, prosecutors, prison guards, the military need to be tried and pay direct reparations, in many cases jailed for crimes against humanity. Rich people too. So he's upset at a lot of people here, and a lot of people are guilty of whatever he's purporting. That there's a lot of people who are involved here. Oh, and here again, you can come fight me in Philly. And this is where he first time says, you're more than welcome to come fight me here in Philly. Awesome. So he's inviting many people. He's I wouldn't say he's an agitator. This is, he's simply inviting somebody to come have combat with him. Here's something else when he references dead privacy. Hopefully you didn't directly commit war crimes, but if you did, you will get yours. That's a promise. That's a promise. You would have to infer from him. You will get yours, whatever that refers to. I couldn't say that this is directly a terroristic threat, but it's definitely borderline, because he's referencing you. You will get yours, and I promise. I don't know if that necessarily fills the definition of terroristic threat, but this man is very angry. So let's see where I get involved. So this is me. I say, where do you want to meet up? I want to fight you. I'm serious. I live in Los Angeles, and I'll fight wherever you want to meet. I then tell him that I'm 5'9", 155 pounds, because I'm worried that if he's smaller than me, I want to disclose that. I don't want to show up and I think it would be unfair if I felt like I tricked him into fighting him, and I show up and I'm 6'5" and 250 pounds. Turns out he's bigger than me. So I would like to meet in a state with mutual combat laws. Here he responds to me, Philadelphia. So he's invited to me. He's invited me, or at least he's told me where he lives. Philadelphia, which is very vague, but when are you available? He says, doesn't matter. Referencing that we should go to a state with mutual combat laws. He's fine with running from the pigs. I don't show up for fights here. Oh, but pigs don't show up for fights here, only when the gun is fired. Okay, so here's where we're discussing the terms of this fight. He doesn't do rules in fights. He doesn't do rules. I understand that he's pretty iconoclastic. I've already gathered that. Get it together, son. He does say he's older than me. He references later that he's 30. I'm 22, so I understand calling me son. If you want to box someone who's got plenty of friends, we could get it sanctioned with. I'm not concerned about boxing. I'm not worried about standing in a ring with gloves. That's not what it's about. I'm simply saying that we need to have some constraints with this. It's a street fight, but we at the very least we need to know where and when to meet. Otherwise, it can't happen. So there has to be some rules. We have to constrain this by something. And here's where he says he's 200 pounds and 6'2". So he's much larger than me. He's got 5 inches and 50 pounds. So let's see if he invites anybody else to fight him. Oh, and here's where he says almost any time a week for 2 from now. Almost any time a week. Okay, I'll have to look at my schedule and figure out when that is. And so I say, if you just want to fight to the death, I am not condoning that, nor do I wish any ill will upon this man as an individual. I do not wish any great bodily harm upon this person. I was asking to clarify if this was a position, if he would like, some gladiatorial form of fight. And then here's where he says, what do you think the purpose of a fight is? Why be fair with a fascist? So he doesn't want to be fair with me. He's referring to me as a fascist. I haven't expressed any of my political ideologies, but he feels that I'm a fascist. I am more than happy to fight him, but I think that's simply more of my own personal fan. I'm a fan of the sport. He says, I'm dumber than most. Death is always a possibility in a street fight. You realize that. Someone could always pull out and get to clapping, especially here in Philly. I'm not worried about boxing in an octagon. If you're shook at me now, somewhere closer to your size. I appreciate that he's asking to defer. He's offering to defer to somebody else who's closer to my size, and I understand that. But really, really, I'm interested in fighting this gentleman, and I am fine with a height and size disadvantage. It's really just the point of it all. Oh, he thought I had left. I've been having trouble recording and editing this video. I have a very low-powered computer, and I can't figure out how to record it. This is like my 5th attempt. I'm simply attempting to journal this, at the very least, for any legal requirements that might come up in the future. But I think it's also very interesting. And here's where I say I'm recording a video now. This was earlier. See, 30 minutes ago I was trying to record a video. I still haven't gotten it to happen. Oh, and I'm concerned that he's going to bring a firearm because he's mentioned a 38, taste testing a 38, and people getting to clapping, and he feels that the purpose of a fight is to kill somebody. Here's where I clarify I'd like to meet in state with mutual combat laws. They've been in an argument about definitions in the Oxford English Dictionary. I'm not really concerned about that. Okay, and here's where he says he ain't promising us. People sell crack and dope at Mallory. There will be firearms there regardless. If you put my name in any type of video, I won't meet you. I'll actually try to reach out and find you too. Sir, I am not reaching out trying to find you. You've put your information online. I live in Los Angeles. You've mentioned that you live in Philadelphia. These are cities. I am not threatening you. I am not a very threatening person. Like I said, you're much larger than me. So just in stature, it would be very difficult for me to threaten you. I'm simply trying to accept your invitation to combat. I think it's just a sport. I think this is good fun. As you said, punching a fascist is good fun. I'm just a fan of combat either way. Okay, I don't like slander, and you're a fascist, so you're going to slander me. I am not going to slander you, sir. I think what you're referring to is libel. I will not in that I'm publishing. I'm printing this information. It would be slander is something that's spoken to a person, but this is published. So I'm not. Again, I don't know anything about you, sir. I do not make judgments upon people, and nor do I wish you any harm, nor do I wish you any ill will. And this is all information that you have put on YouTube, which is a subsidiary of Google, which is, it's according to the FCC or the anyway, according to the U.S. federal government, it's classified as a platform. So, in other words, Google is not held liable for what you publish. It is you who are liable for what you publish, and I'm liable for the individual, the person who puts it on is responsible for what they say. So this is a public forum, and you have invited multiple people. You've invited me personally to come fight you. And if you ever say that you want to call it off, even up to the moment of the fight, I am more than happy to do so. I'm simply trying to. I think it's a good exercise. This is really a cardiovascular experience for me. Fighting. So if you want to ever call it off, I am not looking for any sort of conflict. And here's where he says he's not making any promises. So stop being a punk. You can come or you cannot. I don't care either way. I'm not traveling anywhere. That's fine. I'll meet you on home turf. And people don't rat where I live, even on the people that shoot them. So here's what I propose. I'll reply to this gentleman. I'll propose that we meet at, like he said, Mallory Park. Any form of fighting, but no weapons allowed. We should both have referees, or I'm not sure, the people standing around the circle when a fight gets started to pull people off. We should both have representatives, or colleagues, if you were. I shouldn't be typing live. I don't know how to spell. God damn it. So we should both have representatives here, or friends to observe. I would prefer not, well, I would prefer not fighting to the death. I think probably consciously getting involved in a gladiatorial fight is probably a crime. I'm not sure. It's definitely, if Pennsylvania doesn't have mutual combat laws, I'm not going to commit a crime. I'm not going to be involved in public disturbance, which is why I would say I'm now considering that we would have to meet in some place with a mutual combat provision. Not to fight to the death. There's two ends. A mutual combat state would leave no question of police interference. All right, so let's see what happens.